Grab your favorite alcoholic or non-alcoholic beverage, drink responsibly, do not drink and drive, and join us for the latest episode of Why Complain When You Can Whine. Everything in this podcast is purely for entertainment and psychoeducational purposes only. Enjoy! Welcome to Why Complain When You Can Whine, making sense of the senseless. Join us as we attempt to make sense of toxic nonsense. My straw going a little crazy there. I am Dr. Jody Larman, licensed clinical psychologist, and today I am not drinking wine, but I am drinking. I am drinking my Cafe Bustelo. If you have not had this, this is so good. This is sweet and creamy cafe con leche.
Oh, not yummy. That sounds lovely.
And I have mixed it with Bailey's s'mores.
Oh,
Now,
that looks so good.
I don't like s'mores. I really don't like s'mores. And every time, like, we'll have a barbecue and people make s'mores. Last time, I think it was like 2015 or 16. I'm like, let me try one. It's been a long time. I ate it and then I'm like, oh my God, please don't let me ever eat one again. I don't like them. But this, this I like. And since it is October, I have my Hocus Pocus Trouble is Brewing.
Ooh, I love that. I love that.
Love that. And
that's
yeah,
amazing. All right. Well, joining Dr. Larman, I am Brianne Burry, and I am a registered therapist up in British Columbia, Canada. And I love doing these podcasts with Jody because we, different political backgrounds and whatever, but same school of thought. We both are sort of on the same page. And I, this evening, am drinking scotch. Little John Red.
because my son asked me like questions about whiskey and scotch and what is the other one?
Bourbon?
Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Those to me, with all due respect, are like men.
I know. I get called an old grandpa all the time by my friends. They're like, you're like an old man. You're like an old grandpa. Well, here's my background. Prior to being a therapist, I worked in the wine industry. And I worked in spirits and I worked in everything. And so I don't drink a ton of wine anymore based on the fact that I get a headache from the tannins because I had to taste it for so often, for so long, that I find that this is lovely to calm the nerves. But I can only have 8 glasses. It's not like I drink more than that. It's stronger.
I think of like the TV show Suits, where they would always pour some scotch. I think it was scotch. Maybe it was whiskey. I don't know. There's so much alike.
Well, they're scotch. I mean, really, whiskey, it all comes from the same stuff. And bourbon, it just depends on the cask that it's aged in. So bourbon tastes a bit sweeter because it's usually in oak casks, right? And then you've got old scotch barrels and you've got, like, it just depends on how it's treated after it's been distilled.
So I'm going to say what today's topic is based on what you just said. But before I say anything, this is iced, hence the straw. I drink coffee out of a straw anyways, but this is iced because we are once again in a heat wave and it was over 100 and something today. So that's why I didn't have wine. I wanted something.
Oh, wow. In October. Whereas where I am, it was a lovely, sunny, beautiful day, but it was definitely not a heat wave.
Sunday, we're going to the Dodgers playoff game, and it was supposed to be 102, but now it's going to be a yay 98.
Right. So. Oh, wow. There you go.
So the topic today, and the reason I wanted to use your scotch, bourbon, whiskey is because basically they're like gaslighting. This is the same thing, only we put it in a different barrel, so it's totally different. So we're going to tell you it's totally different when it's not. That is not the definition of gaslighting. However,
but it's an interesting analogy of how people can gaslight using such a analogy. So we're going to be discussing what gaslighting is, what gaslighting isn't. Is gaslighting lying? Is it not? Why do people throw around the term gaslighting? And how is it that narcissistic people can now turn around and saying, you're gaslighting me?
And them turning around saying you're gaslighting me is basically gaslighting.
It's gaslighting. It's a little complex. So
the reason I think this is so important too is because I have, and recently, heard clinicians use the term gaslighting completely wrong.
Ugh, I know.
Now, a lot of people will use the term gaslighting. When you say something I don't like, I say you're gaslighting me. I have heard that so many times. When I don't like what I hear, you're gaslighting me. No, I'm just telling you something that you don't want to hear.
Well, again, it can be used, it can be reversed, right? Somebody who is gaslighting you can then say you're gaslighting them because somehow you're trying to get back to reality, right? So that's basically, so what is gaslighting?
Okay, the actual definition, let me look up what the actual definition is because truthfully, I don't know that. Um, but we
It's
could talk about, go on.
Yeah, no. You're going to read the definition, but basically, it's twisting one's reality. It's tricking one out of the known mutual reality, and it's tricking a person into believing that that's not the reality. Is gaslighting lying? But before we move on to that, I will let Dr. Larman read the clinical definition or the definition of gaslighting.
It's to manipulate someone using psychological methods. So manipulate someone using psychological methods into questioning their own sanity or powers of reasoning.
Yes.
So when you are with an NPD and
Mhm.
you're literally wondering, did I say that? Did I do that? Am I thinking differently? Am I thinking wrong? Wait a minute. And you're questioning your reality. Chances are very, 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 very high that you're being gaslit. Now, sorry.
No, that's okay. That's why people have such high levels of cognitive dissonance after remove or coming out of a narcissistic relationship or even being in one, or when you're around somebody, is that you won't know, you'll lose your sense of intuition and being able to make a call on anything because you're constantly confused as to whether or not am I crazy? Did I say that? Did I think that? Did that not happen? Because you've been gaslit so much.
There are two versions that I've heard of this. And I think it's because there's two different movies. So if I'm wrong, people, nicely in the comments, let me know. But I remember back in 2020, or excuse me, 2000, when I was doing my internship, my internship clinical director was talking about gaslighting. So this has been around for a while, guys. It's just being, within the
Talked
past
about
few
now.
years. Yeah. But there was a movie, Gaslight,
Oh,
where
Gaslight back in the 30s that was done with Ingrid Bergman.
now I heard there was a play and a movie and they were slightly different. Now, again, I could be wrong. I'm not trying to gaslight you, but where the husband would go upstairs into another apartment and was cheating. And whenever he would turn on the gas lights in that apartment, it would turn down the gas lights in the apartment that the wife lived in. So she
Hmm.
would always question what was going on. And he would tell her she was wrong. Nothing is happening. The lights aren't getting lower. That's one version I heard. The other version I heard was the husband wanted to drive the woman crazy, the wife crazy, so he would ever so slowly start to turn the gas lights down.
That's the version I've seen. I've seen the movie with Ingrid Bergman, and it's basically the husband is wants her to wind up institutionalized for something to do with money, I believe, that taking everything and drive her crazy. Wants her to trick her into believing that she's lost her mind and that she's gone mad.
And so he
Um,
would slowly start turning down the flames of the lights.
Everything. It started with like jewelry and like, taking something from her. She had a pin in her pocket or some sort of jewelry he gave her. And then he took it out of her pocket without her knowing. And then she's like, oh my God, I lost it. And he's like, he's playing all of these manipulative games and being like, oh, okay, you've lost it. And then this is how he continued to such insane psychological manipulation, but control and abuse, because this is abuse. Gaslighting is psychological abuse. It is psychological manipulation, and it is twisting one's reality into thinking that the scenario that they know happened or what was said to them has not happened.
Even when there is valid proof. Now, in the United States, we have wonderful Donald Trump, who is a master manipulator and gaslighter. Now, how does he gaslight? Many, many different ways. But one really big way is, for example, Jeffrey Epstein. There
Hmm.
are pictures of him with Jeffrey Epstein. He has talked about Jeffrey Epstein being a fine man. He was friends, him and Putin, all of them were buddies and friends. There's pictures everywhere. And then when Epstein was found to have been not a wonderful man and a sex trafficker and all that, I don't know him. I never met him. If I ever met him, it was just to shake hands and I had no idea who he was.
Hmm.
You have all these pictures of you and him. You have interviews where you talk about him. But now you don't know him, never met him. And if you did, it was like at a meet and greet and you don't know who he is.
He's backtracking and
That's gaslighting.
Yeah. So
That's
how is it different than lying then? Because a lot of people get these two things confused. And if you listen to Dr. Ramani, Diversala, she's a well-known specialist in psychologist in specializing in NPD. She's all over the place. Lots of people watch her stuff. She's really good. And she says that, there's a difference between gaslighting and lying. And she was in an interview with Jada Pinkett, out of all people. Not a fan of her, but anyways, I don't think a lot of people are. There is a difference between lying and gaslighting, even though gaslighting is a version of lying, but it's not lying the way, because Donald Trump, in that example that Dr. Larman just gave, he's now lying because that's not the truth, because he was seen with Epstein. He did party with Epstein. He is, in cahoots with Putin and all this. So now he's backtracking. He's trying to twist the reality, but lying is something where someone admits to being caught red-handed. So the example that Dr. Ramani gives is, say a picture is taken of your significant other with another woman or man or whatever, and you've been caught red-handed cheating. And, a person in that moment would be like, okay, yeah, and I lied to you. I was out. I did do that. You've got the picture. It's like right in front of you. And I was lying to you about where I was, and now you've got proof. I've been busted lying. Gaslighting is when the person has the picture sitting in front of them and they're turning around going, oh, fuck, you know what? You're crazy. You're nuts. You're delusional. This was from a totally different time. Now, it is a version of lying, but it's again, manipulating the person's reality.
Yeah.
And
lying is on it in some respects is you don't know the reality. So I'm telling you a reality. You don't know if it's true or false.
Exactly.
With gaslighting, you know
the reality. And they're trying to tell you it's different. That's not lying, right? Again, lying is good. That's very well said, Jody. You don't know the reality, but you've learned the reality of the situation, and the person can't get out of it. But if it's a narcissist, as we know, they will have their hand caught in the cookie jar and still try to lie and gaslight and manipulate and twist the truth. That's what they're doing, rather than going, yeah, you fucking caught me with my pants down, basically with the smoking barrel or the smoking gun. And there's no way I can get out of this. Whereas a narcissist will be like, you're delusional. You're seeing things that's not real. Or this was
that picture
so long ago before I knew you.
And not only that, yes, it was taken of me and her, but I don't know her. It was a random picture taken at a random time. I don't even remember when that picture was taken.
Exactly. That's an example of gaslighting. Where they're not admitting to the reality that you now know. They are continuing to try to psychologically twist it, manipulate it to get you to believe what they're saying. So they're not caught. So they're not in trouble.
And it's not just to get them not caught and not in trouble. It's also to control you. Because the more that I can manipulate you, obviously, the more I can control you. So it's also doing things like, wait a minute, my friend just called or text and you just said that I'm not around. You took my phone and just text that I wasn't around. I did not. I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I never took my phone. I didn't take your phone. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm going to give you a prime example of gaslighting. And it was the end of my last relationship that Dr. Larman was very well aware of. And I was on my way downtown to meet him and his daughters. And this relationship fell apart for various reasons, but mostly infidelity. So I had some major trust issues. And unfortunately, as therapists, sometimes we wind up being in the most dysfunctional relationships because we think we can fix everybody. Default number one. We come by it honestly. Anyways, and I'm ready to go downtown and we're talking on the phone and he's saying, what's your ETA? And I said, oh, well, I'm just in traffic right now. It's telling me about 42 minutes. He's like, okay, well, let me know when you get here. And I was in the midst of plugging in the destination is to find out what the ETA would be. And he thought that I hung up the phone. Yeah, I didn't hang up the phone yet. And all of a sudden I hear in the background, he's saying to his daughters, "Oh, is the mom cute?" And I'm like, oh my God. And it triggered me. And again, this guy's tried to tell me that he's not doing anything, he's not whatever. And there's already major trust issues. And so now he's womanizing and he's objectifying to his daughters. And I just was so I simply texted him and I said, "Is the mom cute? Question mark. You just got busted trying to hit on some woman or do whatever you're doing." And a lot of people would look at that and be like, "Oh, what's the big deal?" Well, when you're dating a sex addict and somebody who is a complete misogynistic womanizer that's cheated on you and constantly can't keep his eyes and his hands to himself, it's pretty fucking triggering. And so I sent this message, and his reply to me was, "I kid you not. Oh, I knew you were listening, so I thought I'd throw that in there for you to be an asshole." Okay. For starters, he knows our dynamic. He'd never fucking do that because he knows that would just be cruel and horrible and trigger the shit out of me. And he would never do it deliberately, ever do that. And like, there's just absolutely no way he would never do that. So this is him trying to find out a way to cover up that he didn't just get busted for asking his daughters if the mom that they were just talking to or looking at or whatever, if she's cute. Because he
Well, I
knew it was
would
going
have
to
just
cause a
been
problem.
saying, I didn't say that. You misheard.
Yeah, no, he did not. He knew I heard it. And he's like,
Yeah.
LOL. I thought, he's like, oh, I thought I'd throw that in there because I knew you were listening. And I was like, how about you fucking tell me another story? Again, I'm like, prime example of gaslighting and lying because it was just like that. That's not the truth. Don't you dare try to tell me that's not what I'm thinking because I know exactly what just happened. You got caught and now you're going to deflect and you're going to deny and you're going to gaslight the shit out of me because you don't want to take accountability because you know you just got busted and this is going to cause a problem. And so when he called me, he's like, "Oh, I know." He's like, "Well, I knew you were listening." And I said, "That's a lie. Why didn't you just admit that you got busted for saying what you said?" And he's like, "Well, I was just kidding." I'm like, "Okay, well, which is it? You're kidding. Now you're joking, but before you were doing it intentionally to get her to be an asshole." And he's like, "Okay, it was in poor taste." And I'm like, "Why don't you just admit that you were checking out another woman and you got caught and you know that we already have issues around this? But you can't admit truth. You're going to now gaslight and give me so many different scenarios to try to control the narrative, to keep control of me and not take accountability." That is gaslighting.
Gaslighting and Darvo.
Oh, shit. Go hand in hand.
Okay, Darvo, if you don't remember Darvo, it's deny,
Mm-hmm.
attack, reverse offender victim.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that with narcissists because gaslighting and Darvo. My ex one time was toward the end. I didn't know it was toward the end, but it was toward the end. It was New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, sorry. And he said, "I will come over." He texted me my boys are here. As soon as they leave, I'm going to come over. I'm like, okay. Then he texts me, "I'm running late. The kids aren't gone yet. I have to wait for them. I don't know. One lives in San Diego, one lives in Monterey." He goes, "I don't know when the San Diego one is leaving." I'm like, okay. A little later, he texts me, "Okay, he finally left. I'm on my way." Comes over. It's like hours later than he was supposed to. The next morning, New Year's Day, he comes downstairs and he goes, "Man," he goes, "I don't even know what happened to my son. I don't know if he's at my apartment. I don't know if he left. I don't know what he did. I don't know where he is." And I said, "Well, you text me that he had left and you were coming here." Now, this is the Darvo. "I never did that. I never said that. Why are you doing this? Why are you calling me a liar? You're the one, and I'm tired of walking on eggshells. You're the one that always makes me feel like I'm lying. I'm not lying." And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, there's Darvo right there. Hardcore Darvo. Twist, reverse, victim. Now I'm the victim. You're the problem. This is such a typical argument with a narcissist. And the amount of gaslighting that's interwoven in all of those aspects that happens when they deny, deflect, attack, and then reverse, there's elements of gaslighting in absolutely every single one.
Because I'm like, I have the text right here.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. that the text is there. Because now I'm the one that is lying to him and causing him mental distress, manipulating him. And I'm like,
Mhm.
wait a
That's
minute, wait a
past
minute.
offender of a victim reverse role. Like they're, and all of a sudden they are like within seconds. That's how quickly they will twist the narrative on you. But again, in this situation, all I needed him to do was admit that he got busted for trying to hit on this woman. And I would have still gone downtown. We would have talked about it. It probably would have been fine. But in that moment and the gut punch that I felt where it was like, I can't trust him. I just can't. This is just, it's ingrained in here, and I just can't do this anymore. But the fact that he lied, manipulated, and gaslit the shit out of me so blatantly, like so obviously, that I basically ended the conversation with was like, you're a fucking lying sack of shit. And don't you dare try to gaslight me into believing your narrative. I know what I fucking heard. I know exactly what you're doing right now. You're not going to get away with it. And I'm fucking out. And that was the end of the relationship. Never spoke to him again.
My
And again, because it was just been so many years of dealing with that. But in that moment, there was just, he was so fast about how to come up with a narrative that isn't the truth. So he doesn't have to he doesn't have to take accountability for it. And it was so damaging and it's so infuriating and it's so frustrating when somebody is trying to trick you out of the reality that you both know is there. It's not just you knowing what you heard. They know damn well what the narrative is. They know damn well what the reality is. It's a shared reality. They're trying to manipulate you into believing something different.
ex one time sent me a picture of him. It was like a selfie of him in a hospital room because he did overtime in the hospital and a clock. And he sent it to me and he goes, here, I told you. And I'm like, I'm sorry, why did you send this to me? And he goes, because I know you don't believe that I'm working. And I'm like, me? Were you supposed to be sending this to me? Now, he wasn't supposed to be sending it to me. He was sending it to his other supply who thought he was cheating. So he was proving that he was at work. So I said, I go, wait, you're sending this to me? And he goes, yeah, because you don't believe I'm at work. And I'm like,
You're like, I never said that. No, I don't.
exactly. I'm like, why would I not believe that you're going? Why would I not believe that you're going to overtime? And again, there's the Darvo because then it's all my fault. I asked for the picture. I know I did. I never asked for a picture, but
Oh,
I
that's
did. So then you started, even though like I know I didn't ask for a picture, I
Mhm.
started my head going, did we have a conversation that I don't remember?
Mhm.
Because I don't need a picture. I believe you. What he
Mhm.
didn't realize was then it started making me really question,
Mhm.
who are you really meaning to send this to? Which I
Mhm.
wouldn't have questioned before. But
No.
that's gaslighting by saying, you know, you asked for the picture.
Oh, because they're trying to, they're changing the narrative into something that they're trying to trick you into believing that you're crazy and that you're not remembering things the way that they were,
Yeah.
when that's not the truth. Yeah, another example, driving and we were on the beach, had a couple drinks and whatever, we're in the car and he's like, "Oh, this playlist." And I go to play music and I grab his phone. I'm like, "What's your password?" And all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, never mind." What do you mean, never mind? Give me your password. He's like, "No." I'm like, why? And he's like, well, because you were being a bitch back there. Oh, really? So you're not going to give me the fucking password to your phone because you're purposely punishing me because, yeah, well, I'm not, why would, oh, you want my bank account too? And he's like, you always fucking start this shit. And then it's spazzing and flipping out again, all Darvo, but knowing damn well he was going to get busted for screwing around and cheating. He didn't want me in his phone, didn't want me to know the password, had shit to hide, but then decided to blame like me and the fight that we got in. That was directly punishing me. It was the dumbest. It was the same thing when we broke up. The dumbest, lamest, fucking twisting of reality that wasn't even good. It wasn't even good twisting. It wasn't even smart twisting. It was so pathetic. I'm like, you really expect me to believe that you're punishing me because of the argument we just got in, and that's why you're not letting me in my phone, but you just said to me, go put on a playlist. You're full of shit. You're hiding something from me. And then it turned in, fuck you, and you're always this, and yeah, I am. Believe whatever you want. Whatever, fine, believe whatever you want. Always when being gaslit,
Yeah.
They will always say to you, well, fine, you can believe whatever you want, but I know the truth. For
And
3.5 years while he was cheating, and I knew he would say shit like that. Well, I know I can sleep at night. I know I'm okay. You can believe whatever you want. Again, twisting.
I'm trying to think of gaslighting that doesn't go with Darvo. Because most of the things, most of the examples I can come up with,
We'll
they
go
go
with
with
Darvo.
Darvo.
Joking. If somebody is making a joke or they make a comment by insulting you some way and they say, oh, it's just kidding.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just a joke. Why are you taking it so personally? Oh my God, it's just kidding. I was just joking. No, they're not. They're doing it to overpower you, to control, to be mean, to put you down, to make you feel inferior to them. And then they love to throw in, I was just kidding. And now you're taking it personally. That is gaslighting. They know damn well they're doing it to hurt you. Again, they're trying to trick you out of the reality that what they said to you was disrespectful in some way, insulting, knowing that it's going to be harmful to you in some way, and then hiding behind humor. My ex-husband did this all the time, and my ex-boyfriend did this all the time, where they would love to say ignorant, stupid, offensive shit, and then turn around and be like, oh, I was just kidding. God, you're so sensitive.
My ex, I used to walk into his work area when he was not, apparently, when he was doing something he wasn't supposed to. Because I'd walk in and I go, hey, what's up? And he'd be like, stop yelling. Oh my God, you're getting everybody's attention. And I'm like,
Oh my God, Steve did that to me all the
I
time.
wasn't even yelling.
Yes, all the time. You're yelling at me. I'm like, I'm not yelling at you. You're not. Listen to yourself. And then I'd be like, oh my God, am I
You
yelling?
sound like a wild woman. You sound like a crazy woman. Listen to you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I used to get that too. And then I'd be like, oh my God, maybe I am yelling. Am I? And then I'm
That's a
like,
huge gaslighting thing. Oh
that's
my God. Now that I think about it, that's huge gaslighting. Whenever my ex was going to get caught with something, even if I didn't know, I knew. Because as soon as he would say to me, stop screaming at me, stop yelling at me. And I'm like, I'm not, I'm not even yelling. We're in the middle of work. Why would I be yelling? You
Mhm.
know you're yelling. You know what you did. You came in here. Everybody's watching you now.
That was my ex-boyfriend. Same thing. Calm down. He's like, you don't need to yell at me. And I'm like, I'm talking to you. I'm not yelling at you. And he would constantly do that. And again, I would actually question being like, am I raising my voice?
Yes.
Am I yelling? I'd be like, what the fuck? Oh my God. Am I? My mother is a classic gaslighter. So she'll say something stupid, offensive, awful, hurtful. And then you try to call her out on it. And she's like, that's not what I meant. That's not what I said. That's not what I meant.
Yeah.
That's not what I meant. And it's like, then what the fuck did you mean? And then she'd start talking in circles and doing all the shit. Classic fucking gaslighting.
I was gaslit on video.
Thank you for saying gaslit. Do you know how many times I've heard people saying I was gaslighted? I'm
Oh
like,
God.
that's not a word.
It's
I've seen
gaslit.
so many psychologists say that. I'm like, no, it's not gaslighted. Oh God, proper English, please. Gaslit.
So I was gaslit. After a recording of something, I was told that I was rolling my eyes the whole time, that I was the whole time. And I was like, oh my God, why would I do? I would never do that. I am so sorry if I did that. Well, it was being recorded. So I went back and watched the recording 3 times and asked friends to watch the recording. And I never, ever did it.
Hmm.
Never. Not a one roll of the eye, not a one. And I'm like, I was fucking gaslit because the whole
Wow.
time I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I was being chastised.
Hmm.
Like, why would I do that? I would not have any reason. Oh no, you were doing it the whole entire time. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh shit. So yeah, luckily there was proof. I don't speak to those people anymore,
Hmm.
partially because of that. I'm
Hmm.
like, why the fuck would you do that?
Hmm.
But yeah, I was like, I again, when I started questioning did I really do that?
Hmm.
And luckily I had the proof and I know that I didn't.
Hmm.
But with my ex, for example, thank God one day I walked in and his partner was there. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's like, oh my God, again, really loud. You're yelling. You come in here in my workspace. And then his partner looks and I look at his partner like deer in headlights. I'm like, I wasn't even yelling. And his partner's like, I'm getting out of here for this one.
Mm-hmm.
But now that's like, okay, now something's going on. Something, because after you've been gaslit for a while, yes, for the future, even when you leave, you still have that whole, did I, like when I was recorded, did I do that? I'm going to double check. But he was my verification that I didn't do that, because he was not even paying attention until my ex yelled really loudly that I was yelling. He
Mm-hmm.
also told me on my birthday, he was on his way here, supposedly. He got into a fender bender, supposedly, or his son got in a fender bender, supposedly, up north, like 8 hours away, 6 hours away from us. And he's like, oh my God, I have to be at home. I have to take care of the insurance. There's phone calls going back and forth. My son is fine, but I have to be home. And I'm like, well, if there's phone calls going back and forth and you're not a part of it, why don't you come to my birthday like you were going to? We were supposed to go out for dinner. He's like, oh my God, you are the most selfish person. I can't even believe how selfish you are. You do this. This is the gaslighting. You do this all the time. You are trying to take me from my kids. You don't even care. You're so selfish. Everything is about you. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I went out to dinner with out with my son and his caregiver at the time, I'm like, oh my God, maybe I am selfish. Maybe that was wrong of me. He was with his supply, so it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't selfish. He was, but I was literally questioning on my birthday. I was almost in tears going, oh my God, his son, I should have been more sensitive to his needs. I should have cared more. I am really, oh my God, I'm selfish, aren't I?
See
I
how you're
my
getting tricked,
birthday.
and then you start thinking you're the problem, and this is exactly what they want. This is such hardcore emotional manipulation and battery, emotional battery, because again, you start becoming inferior, they start becoming superior. This is their goal. Again, when you made the comment that this is all about control, it's not just about not taking accountability for being busted, it's about control, 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 control. And the more that they have that power over you and you doubt yourself, the more control they have, the more
Yeah.
you're not going to believe their narrative, you believe them, that by the time these relationships eventually dissolve and you get out, if you get out, you have no idea how to make a decision for yourself. You're constantly asking other people to validate. I have clients all the time being like, "Kate, Bree, just explain again. Am I crazy? Am I dreaming this? Am I making this up? Or is this right or is this wrong? Is this right or is this wrong? Just tell me it's right." And it's like, what if I couldn't tell you or give you an answer? What would your gut tell you? And they literally can't, because they've lost all of their own natural inability. Their cognitive function is not working. This is cognitive dissonance. This is such severe, again, and the world seems to be doing that because there's so much gaslighting going on a political level, on an economic level, societal level. Like, again, everybody's just getting tricked out of our fucking reality. Watch the movie Don't Look Up. It's a prime example.
Yep.
So, how the hell, what are we supposed to believe when you've got two people of the same education and same whatever, and doctors telling you two different narratives? Who the fuck do you believe when you don't have that kind of background or that knowing and that education? You trust people for their expertise. And if you're being told by two specialists of the same narrative or the same genre and they're different, again, who's the one that's not right and who's the one that's right? It's just but this is what narcissists do. And a lot of people in these power positions, political positions, obviously,
Yeah.
um, and lawyers and doctors and people who have stature and influence and power are incredibly narcissistic. And this is what they do all the time, is they gaslight the shit out of people.
The thing, when you start to question, here's how you know, if one of the ways to know if you're being gaslit, when you literally start to go, did I? Wait, did I? Did you? Did, huh? And you're questioning everything. You're
Being
most likely
gaslit.
being gaslit.
Mhm.
This is not being gaslit. That's a picture of my cat. Now, it changes, it shuffles. So if it shuffles again, and I say, that's a picture of my cat, and you say, but wait a minute, you had a different picture on your screen. Now, if I say to you, no, I didn't, I never did, I'm gaslighting you. This is the only picture I've ever had. Just
Mm-hmm.
this, nothing
Mm-hmm.
else. It's like, no, you just showed me a picture and it
Mm-hmm.
was different.
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what you saw. This is what I saw right here.
Mm-hmm.
You're being gaslit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, me saying, "Oh no, my phone shuffles." You did see that picture?
Mm-hmm.
That's not being gaslit, people. And I've
Mm-hmm.
seen people say, "No, no, no, you're gaslighting me." It's like, "No, I'm not. I'm
No.
telling you. Yes, it was two different things. You saw two different things. You're not being gaslit.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're seeing something different right now." Because
Mm-hmm.
that's what a lot of times I see that too. It's like, wait a minute, I just saw A, now you're showing me B. You're gaslighting me. No, I
Mm-hmm.
never told you A never existed.
Mm-hmm.
There's an A and a B.
Exactly. You need to know how many people throw the term gaslighting out and feel like they're being gaslit when they're not.
Everyone thinks they're being gaslit. Everyone. I had someone say, well, you might be doing this, but I'm doing that. And then the other person say, why are you trying to gaslight me?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
not gaslighting.
Not gaslighting.
How's gaslighting?
Right. If somebody's correcting you, right? Here's the thing. There's your reality. Well, there's reality and then there's your perspective. And this is the thing that pisses me off the most about a lot of psychological banter is where psychologists or so anybody that works in mental health that is like, oh, well, everybody has a different reality of whatever. I'm like, no, fuck, there's reality and then there's perspective. Now your perspective might be different, but this is where it gets confusing. What is reality versus perspective or your opinion? Opinion, perspective, and reality are different things. Reality is the truth of the situation. That is actually the truth of the situation, not one's own reality. You can have distorted reality, though. That's the problem with personality disorders, is that they distort reality. That's the definition of a personality disorder. They distort the reality of their internal world and their external world and the people around them. It's distorted. So perspective and opinion are different than what reality is. So if somebody is saying, let's use COVID for an example or the vaccine, a debacle, that's a debacle in itself. And your perspective. So one's an anti-vaxxer, one's a vaxxer, right? And one is saying, I'm going to follow the science and I'm going to follow the doctors and I'm just going to do it because that's what's good for me. And saying that this is my opinion of what's going on in the world. And the other person says, well, my opinion is this, and it's a bunch of bullshit, and it's the government trying to control everybody, and they're trying to cull the population, and blah, 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 blah. And the other person says, stop fucking gaslighting me. That's not gaslighting. That's a variation of an opinion. It's different, right? Again, we live in this world. There's a sense of cognitive dissonance there because nobody really knows the truth to what is right, what's wrong. And a lot of these people that follow conspiracy theories and are conspiracy theorists, they don't believe in science.
No.
And they just don't believe in science. They literally think they know better than science. So again, it's such a ridiculous argument to get into, but there's the reality, then there's perspective and opinion. Just because your opinion and perspective differs from another person's doesn't mean that you're being gaslit. And my ex-boyfriend did this shit all the time where he's just like, well, that's my opinion. And that's I'll give you an example. He didn't, I worked in holistic health as well as being a therapist. And we were out one night with friends, and these two yahoos decided to do Molly, which is MDMA. And his friend got sick. He wasn't feeling well. Now, the girl he was seeing at the time was sitting right behind him. And I had some essential oils with me, and I know peppermint is good for nausea and makes you feel better. And I had a blend that had peppermint in it. I said, here, rub this on the bottom of your feet and rub it on your chest. And he was sitting there. And I said, this is what you do. You just rub it on the big toe and then you rub, right. It gets through your bloodstream. And then I started, well, this is what it's not no different than working in aromatherapy or working as a massage therapist like that. You're healing people. And my boyfriend's standing there and he looks at me and he goes, are you fucking kidding me? Because I was touching his friend. So he sexualized it. And I looked at him and I knew damn well what he's doing. And I'm stubborn. And I'm also an Aquarius. And I just, yeah, I'm like, don't need Don't you dare try to change the narrative because you can't see the difference between sexual touch and non-sexual touch. So I continued to do what I was doing. He's like, holy fuck. Like he couldn't believe that I didn't stop. Well, on the way home, we got in a massive fucking argument. And he's just like, you're such a fucking, he's like, don't you, I don't want any woman I'm with touching another guy now that he thinks you want to fuck him. And like, it just went on and on to ridiculous. It was so preposterous. There's nothing I could have said that would have changed his mind. And at that point I said, well, how would you ever date a doctor or a nurse if you can't handle the woman you're with touching another person? He's like, well, I wouldn't date them. I'm like, don't you think that that's a bit of a problem? And he goes, no, it's just preference. Really, dude? It's preference? No, you have a problem. The reality is you can't differentiate between sexual touch, non-sexual touch. It threatens you. You're insecure. So you can't see the difference. You have no ability to mentalize. You have low reflective function. Theory of mind doesn't exist. You think the way that you think, and you think everybody else thinks the same way. Couldn't see outside of himself, and that he was such a he's distorting reality because of his insecurities and his shit. But right there, oh, that's just my prerogative and that's just my preference. It's a preference that I don't date doctors, nurses, or massage therapists or anybody that works in a field where they have to touch another human being.
That's weird.
So you as the doctor, what would you say about that?
Why are you so insecure that you would think that just touching another person is sexual? Tell
Yeah.
me about that.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Yeah.
Is everything that you touch, everyone that you touch, is it sexual?
To
Because
him,
what
yeah.
that tells me is that everything that you touch
Mhm.
or the reason you touch is for sex.
It's sexual because he was a sex addict, right? He had a compulsion, like he had major sex addiction issues, and that's exactly it. He couldn't get outside of his own mind. But him trying to trick me into believing that that was just a preference, and I'm like, no, dude, it's not a preference. It's you're insecure and you have a problem, but you're not willing to admit it. You're not willing to see it. You're just so using again. This is just a form of gaslighting because that's tricking people out of the reality of what they can actually see.
I had, when I worked in the prison, our administration, especially our chief psychologist, I don't like to use the labels, but malignant narcissist. And he would write you up in a heartbeat. He would do everything he could, literally, to make your life miserable. Literally. If you got on his bad side, and everybody did at some point in time, he would do everything to make
You could not, because those people look for things to find wrong with you.
I got on his bad side because he was trying to gaslight me, and I caught him, and he didn't take that kindly. So again, the Darvo, he would put me, he did the on-call calendars when he was a supervisor, and he would put me on call on Mondays for the 6 months. And Mondays are the worst on-call days. So on the 7th month, I said, why do you keep putting me on Mondays? And he said, I never put you on a Monday. I'm like, you've always put me on a Monday. He's like, I never have. So I sent him proof of every single for the past 6 months. Monday. Oh my God. You would have thought I got him arrested or something. I don't know. Because after that, he was after me, wrote me up for everything. And I would just go in there and I'm like, you're wrong. You're wrong. He hated me. I would throw him into narcissism.
That's because there was no way he could get around you because you were right. He wasn't able to gaslight you, manipulate you, or change your mind.
But he would go into our staff meetings and talk about how it's all family and we don't write people up, and if you do your job and you get rewarded. And I would just sit there, and anybody else who knew him and knew gaslighting would be like, not going to gaslight us, dude.
And how about being contradictory? You're contradicting yourself, you fucking idiot.
Yep. So if they're trying to manipulate reality, if they're trying to psychologically, like literally I can tell you from personal experience, if you are questioning everything that you think and feel and do and say and hear, it's because of gaslighting.
Yeah, it is.
and mind fuckery and Darvo. And 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to say every single time, but 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be that high. Darvo's right there.
Oh, 100%.
Because that is also kind of a form of gaslighting. Deny, attack, flip victim offender. When all of a sudden I'm the victim, you're hurting me. That's also a form of gaslighting because I'm not doing anything to you. I haven't done anything. You're hurting me. You're violating my privacy. I haven't touched
Or
anything.
how about this? It gets twisted when the joking or they say something super ignorant or hurtful or meant to be underhandedly, covertly abusive. Because that, again, the joking thing, it's covert abuse. It's like they say something super ignorant and then they hide behind humor so they don't have to take accountability. And then they turn it around and be like, oh my God, I can never do anything right. I know
Oh my God.
I'm the
My ex
problem. That's my ex to a fucking T.
my
I
ex
can't
would
do
say,
anything right. I'm not good enough. You always have a problem. Here
"Ugh,
I go again. I fucked up again. What else did I do wrong?
that's a form of gaslighting too.
It
My
is.
ex would sit and say, I know, I'm just a piece of shit.
Yeah, that was my ex. Yeah, I'm
What?
a piece of shit.
If I ever got upset about anything, I'm just a piece of shit. The whole world's against me. And then I'd
Mhm.
be like, no, you're not. No, it isn't. And then again, they're psychologically manipulating you.
Yeah, how about this? When they fucking really fuck up, like they cheat on you and you catch them and there's no way that they can get out of it. Yeah, I'm a piece of shit. I know. You deserve better than me.
Oh my
I'm a
God,
terrible person.
you
You know
deserve
what?
better than
You
me.
deserve better than me. This is again manipulation because they're trying to play on your heartstrings. They're playing victim now. And I'm a horrible person and you deserve better. My dad really fucked me up because he left me and now he's starting to play victim all over again rather than looking at you and going, I've really hurt this person. I have no place right now in giving excuses for my bad behavior to try to emotionally play on their heartstrings, which again, all empathetic people and especially therapists that want to fix people do. Oh, you're not a piece of shit. You're just a broken little boy on the inside.
My ex would say
I
to
know
me,
how to work you.
my ex would say to me, well, I've never been in a healthy relationship before. And I would say, but you're in one now.
Yeah, right. I know.
Talk
Yeah.
about being gaslit right
Yeah,
there.
totally. Right there. And again, and here's the thing, you guys. Like again, listen to Dr. Larman. We're not immune to this shit. Just because we're educated doesn't mean we can't be tricked, duped by the covert abuse. It's like a narcissist can walk into a clinical and a psychologist, psychiatrist office and fucking have those guys fooled so easily because they tell you what you want to hear. And then our job is to sort of try to figure this stuff out. But if you're not getting the other side of the story and sometimes you can see right through it, other times you can't.
The good thing is, if you're with them long enough, the
You
mask
start
will fall off.
the mask, it does fall
But
eventually, but not right away. Not right away at all.
no, I'm talking about therapists,
No,
clinicians.
therapist, that's what I'm saying. You'll see
Yeah,
it eventually because it'll fall, but you
yeah.
won't necessarily see it right away.
Mm-mm.
Right? The more intellectually intelligent they are, the harder it is to be able to like if they show all of their emotional immaturity and intellectual, yeah, you'll be able to read them like a book and see right through them. But
Okay, two scenarios. One is when they're coming to therapy to tell you how everybody else is wrong.
problem.
They're not. And as the mask starts to slip, they'll stop coming to therapy
Mhm.
before you see that mask fall off. They'll
Mhm.
stop coming to therapy. But if you have them in couples counseling, sorry, I'm not laughing at them, but it's amusing because in couples counseling, you will see it.
Oh, in couples counseling, you see it right
You
away.
will see
Not,
it. Yeah.
you see it
Because
right
they
away. But
can't
when they're
help it.
individual,
They
when my
cannot
ex
help it
went
in
to go,
couples
yeah,
counseling.
when my ex went to go see a therapist after he screwed around with me the first time, and I said, I'm fucking out. You need to go get therapy. I'm not your dad. And he's like, you're right. Okay, okay. He goes, I didn't find out till 3 years later that he didn't even fucking tell the therapist the truth. He told him half the truth. Oh, I messaged another girl and my girlfriend found the message and I was trying to hook up with this girl and I'm following down the same path again and I don't know why I do this and I'm really addicted to sex and I've womanized and well, but he didn't tell the therapist that he'd actually been sleeping with 10 other women at the same time.
Of course not. Of course not.
So again, if you're not going to tell the therapist the truth, they can't help you. They can't help you change. And he's lying to the therapist to tell the therapist what he wants to hear. So he's gonna, again, lie to himself to feel better about himself so he doesn't have to take accountability. So therapist had no idea.
So going back to if you're being being gaslit is you have the proof. You know the reality. Lying is you don't really know necessarily the reality. Like you were late, what was taking so long? Oh, I was stuck at work. Now, if you don't know, that's a lie. But if you see, you're there, you see it, then you come back and they know. This is the thing. They know you know.
They
That's
know
definitely
there's a quote we got to find it. It's like they know you know they know you know that they know you know, and still they fucking lie.
yeah. So that's the thing. When people lie, they don't always know that you know the truth. They
No.
don't. Like, where were you? Oh, I was at the store. It took longer than I thought.
Exactly. Again, but if you get caught and it's right in front of their face, most people that aren't narcissistic people or gaslighters would just be like, okay, you caught me. I can't get around this one. Yes, I lied and I shouldn't have. Whereas somebody who gaslights you turns around and says, well, that picture was taken 5 years ago. You're wrong. That's not. Yet they're wearing the shoes you bought them.
Yeah. Or there's something with the time right behind them that says, like my ex sent me a picture on Valentine's Day when I said, dude, I haven't heard from you. What's going on? And he sends me a picture of his daughter on a gurney with a doctor that she lived in 2 hours away from two time zones away from
Oh,
me.
wow.
And he said, my daughter's in the hospital. She had an asthma attack, and I can't believe you're blowing me up. I would have left you alone if you were with your son. And I said, well, you would have been with me if I was in the hospital with my son. I said, and I had no idea that your daughter was in the hospital. And he sends me a picture, and I blow up the picture as big as I can to the doctor's watch. And it was 6 o'clock my time, which would have been 8 o'clock then. And his watch said something like 3 o'clock. Like nowhere near that it could have happened even at this time, which would have been 1 o'clock our time. So where were you for 5 fucking hours? But it's like, how dare you? My daughter is in, and I'm like, dude, no, your daughter's not in the hospital right now. Here's the proof. And then there's the Darvo and the gaslighting of, I didn't say it was right now.
They never are going to get the truth, no matter how much proof they are going to try to twist, find loopholes anywhere they can. And it doesn't matter how fucking ridiculous they sound. They can sound so fucking stupid where you're like, really, dude? Like you're literally telling me the sky is purple when we know it's blue. Like, come on. And that's what you're dealing with. It's like, no offense to all of my American comrades out there that are dealing with Trump right now, because some of the shit that you're watching, it's like narcissism 101, where people are interviewing and asking questions, and these people are trying to deflect the reality and trying to deflect, and they're saying the stupidest shit. And you're like, oh my God, how could they actually? One guy said, oh, you got to fight fire with fire, not water. Can't fight fire with water. I'm like, oh God.
Seriously, if you want to see gaslighting, Trump said that he wants a national ban. He would what is it? Approve or support a national ban on abortion. And Vance said Trump never said that. Okay, we have video of him saying it. You're saying that he didn't say it. That's gaslighting.
And he's deliberately lying about Kamala being born mentally ill. Like,
oh, no. Sorry. Biden became,
she was born.
Yeah.
And again, what proof do you have? And when, how could you? And this is a political figure and used to run the country, and he's so fucking immature and just ridiculous. There's a documentary on Trump that
didn't want it.
There's numerous documentaries, but one I watched on clinical psychologists and psychiatrists who are evaluating him, and they say, often when we're assessing people, you can get a better and a more accurate picture of watching somebody work in the public eye, not being assessed by psychologists and psychiatrists, because they're not asking specific questions. You're watching their behavior. And every single one of them said not only is he brutally suffers from NPD, we all know that, narcissistic personality disorder,
cluster B,
but he is a cluster B fucking milkshake. This guy literally is a sociopath, psychopath. He is a sadist. He is a narcissist. He is the worst of the worst. He is like triple threat, like full on Machiavellianism, psychopathy, narcissism, the dark triad. Like he is all of them.
You know, what's really scary too, is that people are gaslighting for him.
I know.
He will say something and people will be like, that's not what he meant.
Yeah. See,
it is what he meant.
This is what I'm saying. All the people in support of Trump, they all have their own sense of fucked up pathology. Because it's like,
they've been gaslit so bad that they are now gaslighting everyone else.
Yeah, brainwashed and gaslighting the rest of the world when we all know what the truth is, but they just don't want anybody else to believe it. They want to believe what they want to believe, their own narrative following
Trump. What did they say? Trump had told a 10-year-old that in 10 years he will date a 10-year-old's mom, excuse me, that in 10 years he will date her. So someone asked a MAGA person, who do you think said this? Joe Biden said this. And the MAGA person was like, oh my God, what a pedophile, on and on. And then he said, no, actually, Joe Biden didn't. It was Trump that said it. No, Trump didn't say that. Here's the video. And he showed him the video. And the guy said, that's not what he meant. I'm sure he didn't mean that.
Sounds like my mother.
It's just, yeah, that is gaslighting. If you're showing the proof and you say, no, that's not what it was.
Yeah, I know. Again, deny, deflect, and they make no sense. There's no logic. It's illogical. It's absolutely preposterous.
AI. It was made.
Oh my God.
Now you hear it was made by AI. It was edited. It was, but
this is the crazy making behavior that is infuriating to have to listen to. And it's just embarrassing to listen. It's just, I have no words.
So on that note, we're going to wrap this up. We have so much to discuss on this topic because it's honestly a never-ending topic with Trump.
Yeah.
Being in this society, there's so much material there of examples of Darvo, examples of gaslighting, examples of just plain old mindfuckery that NPD does. And I've said this on other podcasts before. If you want to see, if you want to observe, if you have no idea what NPD looks like, just look at Trump.
Just look at Trump. Well, that's one of NPD. He's textbook right out of the DSM grandiose nurse.
Yes.
But not, I'd say like more than 50% of people that have NPD don't present that way.
But if you want to know what gaslighting looks like, mindfuckery looks like, Darvo looks like, you can see all of that in him.
Oh yeah, all of it. And such a strong example of it.
You don't even get me started because we will never finish this. But so we have more. If you have any suggestions, comments, please be kind. Examples or anything, put them in our comment section. We would, if you guys,
yes. And we also around gaslighting, if you're confused or you have other examples that you may think are gaslighting or not gaslighting, please post them below and we'll be happy to answer your questions, because again, it can get really confusing. A lot of people feel like they're being gaslit, but they're not, or they're using it out of the wrong context. It's opinions or perspectives versus reality. You just have to be really careful. And again, like the word narcissist is thrown around so loosely now, right? Everybody, again, you got to remember when it comes to narcissism, it's part of the human ego. We all have narcissism, but
we can have traits and tendencies that ebb and flow.
And tendencies that go along. Carl Jung, who's a well-renowned theorist and psychologist, looks at it like we're on 8 different mental health spectrums. Okay. If you look at the personality health spectrum, you're looking at one end, which is neuroticism, which is like, oh my God, it's my fault for everything. I'm the problem. I'm blaming yourself and woe is me. Saturday Night Live Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
That's a good example of like neuroticism. You go to the other end of the spectrum, it's like, fuck you, it's your fault, you made me do it. And you blame everybody else. So again, but the goal is to be sort of somewhere in the middle, but we oscillate throughout life, right? And again, if you look at the human ego, we all have to have parts of it, but there's healthy levels versus pathological levels. And so, because somebody's showing narcissistic traits doesn't mean that they're a full-blown narcissist with NPD.
No, it is a pervasive pattern across all domains,
areas of their life.
Occupation, work, school, emotional, physical, family,
everything.
It is
everywhere,
across the whole, all of the domains.
They don't just act narcissistically with one person. You're going to see it, or they're going to try to play that role. And everybody, when you know them long enough, you'll be able to see that mask slip. Yeah. And so you'll be able to see it. Mm-hmm.
So we will talk more about this, absolutely, because I love this topic. Sadly, I love this topic. And I just want to say really quickly, because I did that video way back about my ex getting his karma, that I did see some people who I got the full story, and it was so funny because I said nothing. And the guy telling me the story said, karma. And I was like,
yeah, like shocking.
So
that this guy wound up where he did. So everybody can see who they really are. And that's the validation.
Yes.
Victims of narcissistic abuse really hold close to their heart, because again, you've been denied your reality for so long. And you trying to tell other people, they're not going to necessarily see it. And the fact that you didn't have to say anything and somebody else saw right through all the bullshit must be so validating.
Oh, I'm still on a high from that, believe it or not.
Of course you are.
We will talk about that more. We'll talk about Darvo. We'll talk more about gaslighting. And again, like Bree said, put it in the comments. If you have a question, you can also email us, WCWYCW1. So it's the first initial of the whole Why Complain When You Can Whine, numeral 1. If you don't want to put it in the comments, you don't want anyone else to see it, that's fine. You can email us. But also let us know if we can ask and answer on the podcast.
Yeah, because we can do a question and answer type thing as one of our other podcasts, right? If we're answering some questions, if you've
absolutely,
we can do a Q&A. But yeah, or there's topics that you would want you want discussed. Just let us know in the comments below other topics that are of interest to you.
So follow, share. Love to hear from you. And we will see you guys soon.
Sounds good. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye. Grab your favorite alcoholic or non-alcoholic beverage. Drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. And join us for the latest episode of Why Complain When You Can Whine. Everything in this podcast is purely for entertainment and psychoeducational purposes only. Enjoy.